Hi there, this is Matt Heffernan. Welcome back to my channel. This is a special Slithy Vlogs episode, which I'm recording live on a live stream. And if you're actually watching live right now, what you're going to see is something a bit different. This live stream won't be staying up on my main channel for a while. It will be moving to my new channel, Slithy Games Live, where I have been putting some of the live streams. I've got 3 live streams so far that I've done, and this will be the 4th, but this is not just going to exist as a live stream. We'll have the live stream staying up forever on the new channel, Slithy Games Live, which if you go to my channel, you can subscribe to that. That is right under the channels tab on the page, and you'll be able to get just if you're not able to be up on the internet at the time where I'm putting these videos out, that you'll be able to see them all happening. What we're going to see here is me playing this game from my friend Alan Turvey, who has created a homebrew version of Asteroids. Of course, the original Tato game. It's kind of interesting that both of us are not only creating Z80 tutorial series on YouTube, his using the Usborne books, but my series, of course, is entirely original, my approach to doing things. So my only guide is my previous series for the Commander X16. And but on top of both doing those kind of series, we are also both remaking classic Tato games for the ZX Spectrum. My game is based on Puzzle Bobble, also known as Bust a Move, and that game's called Pop. And probably my next vlog after this one will be based on that. And his game is, of course, Asteroids. Wait, now I'm confusing. Wait. Asteroids wasn't Tato. Asteroids was wasn't Asteroids Atari? I think Asteroids was originally Atari, and I get it confused with Space Invaders. But yeah, Space Invaders was definitely Tato. So he's got this game that he's been working on for a while. He's redoing all of the classic vector graphics. If you go to his channel, which is named Happy Coding, or Happy Coding ZX, or Happy Coding ZX, if you swing that way. And his channel, Happy Coding, has not just his tutorials, but a bunch of the updates on this game. And he challenged me to try to see if I could get a high score. So let's get into it. I've already redefined my keys, and we're going to see. You can see here on the attract mode, it actually has an attract mode, that 3500 is the basic score that I have to pass just to get into the high score on the game itself while it's in memory. So we'll see. We'll see if I can do that, and we'll see how I do compared against all of his patrons and other live YouTubers and Twitchers and whoever else is going to do this. So let's get to it. All right. So as you can see, straight off the bat, very similar, very basic version of Asteroids. It's got all the typical elements that you're going to see. It starts out with 2 big asteroids in the first level. So I've already gotten through that. Oh, I didn't get out of the way there. Now, I did not play a ton of the original Asteroids in the arcade, but at home I had a Vectrex. And if you know anything about the Vectrex, you know that there's a version of Asteroids that was built into it. If you did not put a cartridge in, you were playing the Vectrex version of Asteroids. Can't quite remember what that was called now. Because again, didn't have to actually put in a any cartridge for it. It was just automatically playing. So I played that quite a bit, even though I had quite a few cartridges for the Vectrex. That was also a very solid version of... Ooh, didn't quite make 3500 there in that first try. Very solid version of Asteroids, and of course with the Vectrex had a real vector monitor. Here Alan is making a... Okay. Trying to make a version for the Spectrum, where of course it is going to be for a PAL-based TV, good old raster display. It is not going to be vector display compatible. So that would be kind of interesting. And of course, there were vector games. I can't remember, ouch, any specific ones offhand that used a vector display and a Z80, but I'm sure there were some. It was so very common in that sector. A lot of arcade cabinets had a Z80 in them, and you had that period in the mid to late 70s and into the early 80s, where vector displays were pretty popular, because you really had a lot of limitations with the raster display. It required a lot of CPU horsepower to do sophisticated graphics, especially graphics that would scale or give you any sort of like 3D effect. And of course you'd have all the little jackies like you can see on this. It doesn't look as nice on Asteroids, doesn't look as nice on a raster display as on a vector display. Hey, look at that. All right, so 4660, that's the best I could do. Oh, and it looks like I still got to use the game controls to, I can't just type in my initials. So let's get the old initials in there. Let me show here, enter. We can show different colors on here, which is kind of cool. If I get like cyan, that gets a little more like the original there. Well, looks like I did a little better that time. Got up to 5690. So I'm just going to play this a few times until I get up to... Oh, there we go. Oh, how nice. My initials were preloaded in there. So, all right. Looks like I'm moving up. Oh, it pushed out my older score. Interesting. So 5690 is where I'm at. We'll see if I can hit 10,000. If you've seen some of my tutorial videos and other demo videos, I was using Zasarix for emulation. And I've switched back to Fuse because I've discovered that the... well, Zasarix, yeah, it's kind of janky to use, but I was before, when I was having trouble with Fuse, I was using the SDL version of it. And turns out the GTK version works a lot better. I was thinking that the SDL version would be a little more, realistic, maybe a little higher quality, better fidelity, but this seems to do pretty well. And definitely the SDL version was a mess. I am not doing well this go around. Oh. That was not a good one. Let's try to do this for real. Well, Bunker Boy, I'm glad you're here for one of my live streams. I know that like a lot of my subscribers, even my patrons, are not able to make these, because I do it at a weird hour. I know I usually do it too late for America and too early for Europe, and that's the way it ends up. Oh, hey, Jimmy's here though. It's hard to get that quiet and recorded. Yes, there we go. So thanks, Jimmy, for logging in. Jimmy's one of my patrons, so thanks for making it. I know this is probably first thing in the morning for Saturday for you. 7:50 a.m. In Denmark, I guess. All right, so yeah, it's not too bad. I know in England it's an hour earlier, and that's where it seems since I started doing this content for the Spectrum, understandably, my country demographics have shifted quite a bit. so that especially when my Spectrum videos come out, that at least for that day, I get more views from the UK than from the US. But then it sort of reverts back to that mean. But then I get a lot of views from all over Europe. Oddly enough, I don't see a lot of views in the YouTube Studio Analytics showing a lot of views from Russia, but I know I get a lot of Russian viewers because they show up in the comments. I don't know if maybe Russians are more likely to show up in comments rather than having their location show up in any demographic data. I'm not sure what that is. Ooh. Stinker says, speaking of 8-bit micros, tend to think Z80 is the speccy is worse than the 6510. Yeah, so it's there's pluses and minuses. A 3.5 megahertz Z80 compared to a just over 1 megahertz 6510. You're really talking about the same sort of horsepower because the Z80 is a lot more cycle hungry than the 6502 family. So to do the basic operations, it's generally going to take about the same amount of time, and so it really depends on what your application is, what it's going to do, and you could have certain applications that are going to perform better on the Z80, and certain applications are going to perform better on a 6502 or 6510. I found the LDIR and other repeat opcodes interesting. Yeah. So LDIR and LDDR, very interesting. Those are the kind of opcodes that you didn't really see in microprocessors until much later. The Z80 was really a forerunner for that. Of course, you had these mainframe instruction set architectures that had all sorts of large amounts of functionality built into single instructions, but the micros like the 8080 and the 6800, 6502 didn't have instructions like that. They were a lot more like what we would think of as sort of a RISC instruction set architecture, but without some of the advances that came with RISC, with the pipelining and so on, that you were able to actually just have a very small instruction set architecture because you had to fit it on a small piece of silicon. That's what you got. So people still will insist on calling the 6502 a RISC processor. And it's like, well, no, it's not. The instruction set's not reduced. It's just small, right? Sometimes things are just small. They're not reduced. Reduced means that you had a capacity for more and you made the conscious decision to make it smaller in order for some sort of gain in efficiency. And that is not the case with the 6502. It's just a little rinky-dink thing. There's not that many transistors on it. So it really just was about getting how simple could a microprocessor be and still be Turing complete. And then at the end of the day, you get the 6502. Now, of course, the Z80 took a very different approach from the 6502. That was more like, all right, well, I've got this small piece of silicon. I need to make an affordable CPU for making doing low-cost systems. Generally, of course, originally it was meant to be for embedded systems like these arcade cabinets and a lot of medical devices that still use Z80s to this day. And so then it was like, well, how do we make a processor that is not just backwards compatible with the 8080, but also introduces all these other things to make programming a lot better. Is this my highest score so far? Yeah, that's the best I've done so far, 6,040. And yeah, so that's what you had with the Z80, is something that it wasn't RISC. It wasn't reduced. In fact, it's augmented. Is how sophisticated of an instruction set architecture can we get in a small piece of silicon, in a cheap microprocessor, and put in embedded systems, and then be able to build cheap single board computers, or eventually home computers like the ZX Spectrum. You didn't have to add a whole lot of extra hardware to it to make it work. We're going to see if I can maybe crack 7,000. I think one thing that's a little frustrating with this is, ouch, that first of all, the new lives aren't quick to come, and there's like a big limitation in the angle. So you can see here, like, going back and forth, trying to adjust the angle of shooting. It's tough. There's like, it's like a 20-degree. It's like a 20-degree differential. Like, I hit the button and it moves by like 20 degrees, or that my little, I can move this guy, my little ship, and then the actual angle of my artillery doesn't quite match. You can see it looks like it's a little bit off from where I'd expect it. So I could turn to a spot and it's not quite coming out where I'd want it to. So yeah, I mean, definitely this is a work in progress. So a lot of those kind of things Alan still needs to be working on. It hasn't been like really playable for very long. This is it, like, you just a couple weeks ago you couldn't die in this game. Right? You could just start shooting and you could shoot everything, but nothing would kill you. And now things definitely kill you. It's really a playable game. Of course, it was a lot easier when nothing could kill you. Oh, there we go. I almost got to 10,000. And how much longer ago than that? It was... You couldn't even destroy the asteroids. You just had all the graphics moving around, and you could shoot, but it wouldn't actually destroy anything. You took basic in high school. Interesting. Very interesting. So yeah, no, I don't recall any level of my education having basic be something that you could take as a class. I do remember in middle school on those TRS-80 Model 3s that we did Oregon Trail on, that they had, of course, basic on there, and so we did a little bit of time on that basic, but that was only like a couple times. Didn't really learn how to program. It was like, there was that simple racing game that you saw on like every version of basic. Yeah, this game's a complete wash. I'm just kind of winging it at this point. And so like they said, oh, here, now you can do list, and you can see the basic code, but not really teaching us how to program. Not like in the earlier class I had where we really did stuff with logo. But even with the logo, it was still mainly drawing. Did end up using logo again years later, my senior year of high school, with Apple IIe's, the very end of the life cycle of the 2E, using the Lego robotics kits that had the special interface board in the 2E, and this like breakout that you could control the different motors and things, and basically we were just expected to learn how to use this logo-based interface with it. And of course I had logo experience, and some of my other classmates had that logo experience from like 9 years earlier, and we were able to bring that back. Yeah, mastering the thrust controls on this is sort of evading me. I know when I played this on my old Vectrex, I didn't use the thrust a whole lot. Didn't really like the mechanics of the thrust on that. I always felt more out of control than in control. It was definitely a lot soupier, I would say. than in the original Asteroids. I think the jury's out with this version, whether this works at all better. I think this might be my last attempt. We'll see. Unless this really goes south quick, like the last couple of games. Would really like to beat 10,000. Oh man, I'm starting to lag now. I don't know if that's just my emulator crapping out, or if the game itself gets slow when there's too many asteroids on the screen. I think it might be the game. Oh, you see. Yeah, and that takeoff's really slow, too. I seem to remember the original Asteroids having a much faster takeoff. Oh, that was pathetic. I gotta at least play one more time. At least when, you know, when the Asteroids kamikazes you, it has the decency to self-destruct. Ugh, see, yeah. I try to evade, and I just can't evade fast enough. Yeah, see the hyperspace? It seems like I just end up in a random spot. And then, yeah, it doesn't seem to help me at all to do hyperspace. Ugh. Oh, this one's even worse. The 65816 is something I call Weirdo Frankenstein. Yeah, that's definitely kind of how it happened with MOS, or actually WDC rather. It wasn't MOS that made it. Where WDC is like, hey, you know, we should really make like a 16-bit processor. What should we do? Should we just copy the 68,000, where we kind of like, in the 6502, we basically copy the 6800. And they said, nah, let's make something like weirdly backward compatible, because we've got like these billions of systems running the 6502. Let's make something backwards compatible. And they did it. It wasn't a huge success, but, you know, it was a big enough success that they still make them. Right? It had a... They got Apple to make a really nice computer in the 2GS. Oh, come on. But of course, Apple didn't really stick behind the 2GS. The 2GS was a really nice system that you know, Apple's like, oh, the Mac is where it's at, and the 2GS was selling really well, but they didn't want to back that product. It's kind of what drove Woz out of the company, was the fact that they didn't really see the 2GS as something that could have, like, really jump-started Apple's visibility in the home market, especially when it came to gaming. 2GS was really nice for gaming. And, you know, you could actually play those games that were made for all the 16-bit systems. And it was better than what most folks had for a PC compatible, until, like, you know, the VGA games started coming out. But it certainly could have evolved to that. I really believe they could have done a much better job marketing and supporting that system and letting it evolve into sort of a low-cost 16-bit system, and, you know, sort of eventually emerging that in the Mac. I mean, the Mac, to this day, it never really became something that people gamed with. Hey, oh, look at that. All right, I think I'm going to end on this high note. All right, that's as good as I can get. 13,770. That's as good as I'm going to be able to play Asteroids RX, at least tonight. I thank you for watching, and if you're not already subscribed to my channel, go ahead and subscribe here, but also please check out the new channel, Slithy Games Live. Subscribe over there. I'll probably be, of course, all of my unedited live streams will end up on there permanently, and I think eventually I'm going to start shifting some of my live streams to originate on that channel rather than on this one, because I've had not a lot of great success with the live streams on here. They're kind of fun to do. It's an easy way to generate content, but it seems that it sort of clashes with the more edited, produced content that I'm creating. And so I'm trying to kind of separate that out and create the streaming content for the folks that like that, and then focus on more of the tutorials and the demos and things that are really driving people to my channel. So that's all I got for you tonight. I'd like to, again, thank you for dropping by, and take care. Yes, you too. Have a great night. Bye-bye.